Welcome to the Unfortunate Diehards YouTube channel, Eastern Conference previews for the Stanley Cup playoffs of 2024. So each of us are going to weigh in on what we think is going to happen in the Stanley Cup playoffs on the Eastern Conference in this video, giving you guys our opinions on how the series are going to go and who makes it to the finals and how we think the teams match up against each other. We'll also have other videos on matchup specific or team matchups, and so you guys can watch those as well on the YouTube channel. So the first series we're going to be talking about is the Capitals and Rangers matchup. Obviously, this matters more to one person than other people on the podcast, Omar. So if you guys want to read the lineups for us, and then we can take it away from there.
Okay, so starting off with the Rangers forwards. Left wing, we got Kreider. Center, we got Zibanejad. On the right wing, we got Jack Roslovic for the first line. On the second line, we have Panarin, Trocheck, and Lafreniere, which seems way more like a first line than a second line, so flip those two. Third line, we got Will Cuylle, Cuyle, Cuylle, Alex Wenberg in the middle on the third line, and then Capo Caco on the right wing on the third line. And the fourth line is Jimmy Vesey, Barclay Goodrow, and Matt Rempe. A lot of big dudes.
Defensive I don't know how many times you said third line when you were talking about the third line. You said it like 4 times.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah, you were like on the third line.
I think you have the left line like
third liner.
You know what? Comedic flair. It's fine. We'll leave it in there. I read 4 lines, okay? That's what matters. The first defensive pair is Ryan Lindgren and Adam Fox. Second defensive player is Keandre Miller and Braden Schneider. And third D pair is Eric Gustafson and Jacob Trouba. And then in net, we obviously have Shesterkin and Jonathan Quick. You want to say the injuries for that?
All right, we've got a couple of injuries on the Rangers. 2 guys on IR, Philip Chittle and Blake Wheeler. That's your first overall in the entire league. That's your President's Trophy winners, right? They did win President's Trophy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's talk about the people that just squeaked in then.
Yeah. Your Washington Capitals.
Yes, sir. Best team in the damn NHL on pure vibes. First line, Hall of Famer Alex Ovechkin, Hall of Famer Connor McMichael, and Hall of Famer TJ Oshie in my heart. Second line, Alexei Protas, Dylan Strome, and Tom Wilson. Third line, Max Pacioretty, Hendrix Lapierre, Sonny Milano, and fourth line, Beck Ballantyne, Nick Dowd, and Nicholas Aube-Kubel. The defense is a little wild because we have some injuries, which you'll get to. Fehérváry and Carlson, first pair looks. We need them to play a lot of minutes. Then we have TVR and Vincent Oreo on the second pair, and Alexander Alexiev and Dylan McIlrath on the third pair. That's what we've been playing for the last 3 games. And in that, we have Charlie Lindgren and Darcy Kemper. And you'll see the injuries on defense in our injuries.
So doesn't TVR sound like a TV channel? The injuries are your Nicholas Backstrom, who's definitely not coming back.
Imagine like first game, you just see him out in warm-ups and you're like...
Crazy. Imagine.
Okay, on IR you have Ethan Bear. Day-to-day is Rasmus Sandin and Nick Jensen. Nick Jensen got concussed is what I can only assume.
I think it was a concussion, yes.
Yes. And actually, Rasmus Sandin, I'm not sure if it's day-to-day, but Rasmus Sandin is out.
They're all just out.
Yeah.
Ethan Bear's in the player assistance program.
Oh, true. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Sandin and Jensen, I think, both have upper body injuries.
So unfortunately for Sufi, I personally don't see the Capitals putting up much of a fight here. The Rangers are younger, faster, also, I'm not going to say have more playoff experience because they don't by technicality, but they have more people in their prime. They have an elite player pretty much at every position. So for me, it sucks because it would be cool to see the Capitals move on, but they have a very tough matchup ahead of them. And I don't see it going very far.
I agree, but I also don't. I have to back the boys, and like realistically, there is always a chance in the playoffs for some
Yeah.
craziness to happen. So like I think even Evan knows it. He's like he like you can be like 99% to 1% for one team, and that 1% can still happen because that just in hockey playoffs, there's just always a chance for that to happen. We've seen it with the Blues in 2019. We've seen it with the Kings in 2012. We've seen it with the Canadians in 2010, where they beat the young, fast, very similar to this Ranger team, Capitals team in 2010, and they were on the back of a of a very similar type of goaltending performance that we've seen from Charlie Lindgren all year. So I think that there is a key to success here, and that is play extremely low event hockey, extremely low event, and block a ton of shots. And Charlie Lindgren has to be absolutely insane for 7 games. Um, I think as much as just like the rest of our games in the regular season, I think that the series might go exactly like that, where it's going to be either a blowout or really tight, and there's no in between.
So yeah, I don't see where you're leaning towards.
I'm leaning towards happiness.
Okay, well, yeah, I mean, I have to agree. I would say that the big storyline in this series is going to be Charlie Lindgren, because
Yeah.
he's been the storyline leading up to this. He's been playing out of his mind a little bit here, and he's going to face off against Shesterkin. So I don't want to say that that I'm thinking it's gonna be a full out Rangers, sweep or whatnot here, because I think there's a couple of things we have to keep in mind, and one thing is that we've already talked about is that Washington's been playing playoff level hockey for what, about 2 to 3 weeks now,
Mhm.
at least.
A
Um,
month, honestly.
yeah, even a month or so. I think it's gonna come down to if Lindgren can do what he's
Stand on
been
his
doing,
head.
if he can stand on his head, because I mean, yeah, I don't think line by line there's really a matchup here.
Yeah.
Um, like I think Rangers have them beat at every position.
I
Um,
think with every other series we're going to go through, we can literally go through forwards, defense, and goaltending, and be like, okay, this team has the edge here. There's no point in doing that with this series because it's just
yeah.
Rangers, Rangers,
The other
Rangers.
thing,
The only thing is the goaltending, where Lindgren can be better than Shesterkin if he just like plays the way that he has been this whole season. But that's the only position that I can really see us winning at all.
I would say the biggest thing you have going for you right now, yes, the Rangers have high scoring players, but you're lucky that Ovechkin has been on a heater
Yeah.
leading up to now. If he was on the same pace or slowed down, like he had a good start and
Mhm.
slowing down, that'd be even worse for the Caps.
Yeah, I'm happy we don't have 10 goal Ovechkin coming into the playoffs.
well, so the other thing that's going to be a big factor in this, I think the Rangers have what, the third ranked power play in the league, or they're top 3 or 4 in the league in the power
Yeah,
play anyway. And I think Washington is middle to lower pack in penalty kill, if I'm not
we're
mistaken.
straight in the middle, bro.
Yeah, middle. Yeah. Okay.
Just dead in the
So
middle.
that's going to be a thing as well. I mean, where's Washington's power play?
So here's the thing. That's the other factor. I have 20 seconds left on the clock. Since the All-Star game, the best power play in the league is the Capitals.
Well, then that works a little bit. Yeah.
Before the All-Star break, the worst power play in the league was also the Capitals. So it shows the shift that we had after the All-Star game. So like, I don't know. We also I think the timer is running out here. Let me get this one last thought out. Holy crap. Um since the All Star break, the Caps actually had like I think it was like a top 5 or top 10 goal differential in the NHL. So I think it's very important that we play that brand of hockey compared to what we played before the All Star game. From top to bottom, from Ovechkin to Lindgren, everyone played better in the second half. Power play, penalty kill, everything. So if we can do that, that's the only way we have a chance.
Yep. It's going to all rest on
All
the
right.
shoulders of Max Pacioretty.
I think he might get a healthy scratch for Ryan Leonard. Uh, all right, Evan, you want to give your prediction here first?
I'm going to say Rangers in 5.
Hey, thanks for the game, man.
Sufi.
You go first.
Okay. I'm going Rangers in 6.
I almost said 6.
Yeah.
Thanks for the 2 games, Omer.
I think I told you they've been playing playoff hockey. I think they can squeeze out a couple.
Well, I think we know what we're doing. I'm saying I'm going to be very specific here. Caps in 7. Game 7 goes to triple overtime.
And who scores?
Who scores?
Carl Hagelin.
Vincent Iorio. Because my theory is he's someone that plays about 10 to 12 minutes in a game. So by third overtime, he's going to be one of the only guys that has legs anymore. That's my theory.
Just for you, I hope I'm wrong, but it's just your prediction.
I know.
Is so funny
no one
I
outside a Caps fan is going to pick something because
I just don't think there's any chance.
Like there's if any of us Caps fans look at predictions and expect anyone to pick anyone other than the Rangers, we're being idiots. It's only going to be us, and even some of us won't pick the Caps.
Although you know what, of any of the top teams, Caps could have faced, Rangers are probably the best option right now. I'm going based off last season because Rangers did, stock up and they were favorites, and New Jersey beat them. So
yeah. It's always the thing is it's always possible.
Yeah.
Last note, Sandin and Jensen coming back in the series is also extremely huge. Like we need those 2 guys. We need at least one of those 2 guys come back.
Yes, you do.
Then maybe Iorio doesn't score in overtime.
No, then I'd be very happy if Dylan McElrath came out of the lineup, I'll be honest. But he was good for the last 2 games when he did play. All right. That's it for the Caps and Rangers.
All right. Series number 2. Your second division winners, Florida Panthers against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Battle of Florida.
What a series.
I think this. So before we even get into this, honestly, I think this worked out in the NHL's favor big time. Having a Battle of Florida and also having Leafs Boston, which we'll get to obviously, but those for the NHL, it probably worked out for the best.
Yeah.
Those are 2 heavy matchups that I think they know they're going to get a lot of eyes on. Anyway, we'll start with the Florida Panthers. Central Atlantic Division winners. Line 1, we've got Vladimir Tarasenko, Alexander Barkov, and Sam Reinhart. On line 2, we've got Carter Verhaeghe, Sam Bennett, Matthew Tkachuk. Line 3, Ito Luosterainen, Anton Lundell, and Evan Rodriguez. And line 4, Nick Cousins, Kevin Stenlund, and Jonah Gadjovic. Yep. On defense, we've got Gustav Forsling and Brandon Montour on your first pairing, Nico Mikola and Dmitry Kulikov on your second pairing, and Josh Mahura and Uvis Balinskis on your third pairing. And then in goal we have in goal we have Sergei Bobrovsky, and Anthony Stolarz. So
injury-wise, may as well include Aaron Ekblad in the decor because it says he's ready for game 1. Oliver Ekman-Larsson, they said he was injured, and then he was just healthy scratch in the last game, so he might play. So I guess he's injured, but who knows? He was injured, and then he just wasn't played when he was healthy again. That's all I have on that. But those are the only 2 injuries.
All right, and they will be playing against the Tampa Bay Lightning. So in Tampa, line 1, we've got Anthony Duclair, Braden Point, and Nikita Kucherov. Line 2, Brandon Hagel, Anthony Cirelli, Steven Stamkos. Line 3, Michael Esimon. I always know it wrong.
Ooh, he's the guy that injured Jensen.
Oh, okay. Nicholas Paul and Mitchell Chaffee. And line 4, we've got Tyler Jeannot, remember? Luke Glendening, and Connor Sheary. And on defense, our first pairing is Victor Hedman and Darren Radish. Second pairing is Nick Perbix and Eric Chernak. Third pairing is Emil Lilberg and Matt Dumba. And in net, we've got Andrei Vasilevsky and Matt Tompkins.
I mean, may as well. It's just Vasilevsky and Vasilevsky.
Yeah.
Jonas Johansson is technically the backup, but he's day to day, and Tyler Mott is also day to day. Miguel Sergachev is out for the season.
Yeah.
Those are the three.
His looked terrible, man.
I did not like watching that video.
I did not like it. No. All right. Subi, why don't you start us off? Sure.
Okay. So the thing that I wanted to get into. So for me, after I think I watched the Lightning play the Caps very near the end of the season. It was one of our bigger games. The thing I want to say is Stamkos and Hedman. Those are like my two X factors in the series for the Lightning. They were both extremely bad at 5-on-5. Like, I usually don't bring up plus minus, but Stamkos had 40 goals and 80 points, but he's a minus 20, which just doesn't make sense in my head. Hedman also had a lot of points, but both of them were like significantly like over half of their points were on the power play. Where that's why Kucherov was labeled as an MVP candidate, not only because he had 140 points, but because he was the only guy that put up even strength points along with Braden Point. But just the rest of the lineup on Tampa, it was like surprisingly deep, which I didn't anticipate. But then if you look at Florida, it's just, I don't know, with Ekblad back as well, and how many X Factor players Florida has, I think that their X Factor players are just in a more prime age than Tampa's X Factor players. I think that is going to take a lot from the veterans in Tampa, which they could definitely flip the switch and play way better in the playoffs. And a really good performance by Vasilevsky in order to get past this Florida team.
Yep. So what I'll say is, when it comes to Tampa, their core guys still perform this year, which is good to see. I mean, Point, Stamkos, and Kucherov, despite Stamkos's plus minus situation. I mean, he still got 5 goals. Sorry?
It's mostly just his 5-on-5 play. He was like insane on the power play.
Yeah. And then obviously Kucherov had an insane season that I know I wasn't expecting Kucherov to have that kind of a season this year. I don't know if you guys were, but I was a little bit like not surprised because it's Kucherov, but still kind of like, whoa, Kucherov's really going. So I think if those guys remain strong with their experience and whatnot, I think they can match up against Florida. The big factor that this time I find, because they beat Florida 2 seasons ago in round 2. The big factor for me is going to be Matthew Tkachuk. Because I don't know, like, I know Tampa's been to like 3 cup finals, they won 2 cups and all that. I want to see, because obviously Tkachuk's going to come in and do what he's going to do, and I don't know if Tampa's really dealt with that kind of a player in any of their runs so far. I could be wrong. I just don't know if they have. So I don't know. Obviously, it's one player, but I want to see, he was a huge factor in the playoffs for them last season. So he's going to come and do his thing and rattle the big guys on Tampa. I don't think at the same time, Reinhart, like the Florida power play is insane. I think Reinhart's like 27, 28 power play goals. I think how many of those were assisted by Tkachuk himself? So I think on the power play, on the power play, I think Tampa's going to have it hard. I think Vasilevsky's going to have to be huge again, and he had a bit more rest last season after being knocked out by the Leafs. So maybe he's a bit more fresh. I give the defense edge to Florida because I know there's Hedman and stuff, but like they're a little bit on the end of their time back there. Anyway, go ahead.
Battle of Florida would be very cool to go see. I've considered it. It's close, I think. Like if you're looking at a team that's been successful for a long time, a team that had a really good run last year. They have size on defense. They have annoying forwards on both teams. Both have a good goalie. But yeah, the difference I think being is, like you said, one team's more in their prime years than the other. I really do think it could go either way. It wouldn't shock me. But I think it comes down to goaltending because, Bobrovsky was insane last year. Vasilevsky in certain playoff series has just like never lost 2 games in a row. And if that happens again, we know it's going to happen. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But I think, the biggest factor for me is because they have so much talent at every position is the goaltenders.
That's fair. Also, and the thing with Florida too is like Matthew Tkachuk wasn't as good and Florida was still able to produce ridiculously offensively. I think that like Kachuk's if you're able to get Kachuk off his game, it's not as huge of a deal for Florida anymore because they have so much depth scoring. It really doesn't matter.
And he's
Like,
effective in other ways. Like if he's
yeah,
getting other people off their game and he's off
yeah,
his game, then they have other people that can score. Where if
yeah.
like Kucherov isn't scoring, then that's an issue.
So, but and that's another thing, right? Like you're gonna have to get guys like Tanner Jeannot and Esamont, whatever his name is, are really gonna have to try to get under Kachuk's skin and take him off his offensive game at least, so they can factor that out at the very minimum. Because then you still like Florida still has guys like Barkov, Reinhardt, Tarasenko, Verhaeghe, Bennett, Lundell, Rodriguez, ton of scoring still, and their offense also comes from their defense in Montour and Ekblad.
And Forsling.
And Forsling's that's what I was talking about. Forsling being underrated is that he put up 40 points, but he's also arguably one of the best defensive defensemen in the league, which is pretty wild to me. He scores like 10 goals a season. But yeah, and I have no idea what's happening with Oliver Ekman-Larsson considering he's a healthy scratch, but I guess we'll see what happens there. That's more experience, I guess.
All right.
Okay, let's go for predictions. Omer, you had a lot to say on this one, so you go first.
I'm going Florida in 6.
Florida in 7.
I got Florida in what I wrote down. I'll stick with it. Florida in 7.
I would love to I kind of want to say Tampa just to be different because I do think it can happen.
Yeah,
I'll stick
but
with
I already had my my. I'm gonna be different.
All right, for our next series, we have the Carolina Hurricanes and the New York Islanders. Take it away.
Okay, so starting with Carolina, first line Gensel, Aho, Jarvis. Second line Kotkaniemi, Jack Drury, and Marty Necas. Third line is Jordan Martinick, Jordan Stahl, and Andrei Svechnikov. And fourth line is Stefan Nason, Evgeny Kuznetsov, and Jesper Fast. That was a very spread out lineup. Defense, they have Slavin, Burns, Orlov, Pesci, and Chatfield and D'Angelo. And then goalies, they obviously have Anderson and Kochetkov. And Omer, you can say injuries, but they don't have any injuries. So
No injuries.
The Islanders, they got Barzal, Horvat, Anders Lee, Brock Nelson, Pajot, Palmieri, Engvall, Cizikas, Clutterbuck, Matt Martin, Oliver Wahlstrom, Simon Holmstrom, and Kyle McLean. And then Hudson Fasching, I think, is an extra forward. On defense, they have Adam Pelech and Ryan Pollock, Alex Romanov and Samuel Bolduc, and Mike Riley and Sebastian Aho. And then in net, they have Ilya Sorokin and Semyon Varlamov.
Injuries for the Islanders, Scott Mayfield is on IR and Noah Dobson is day-to-day.
Yeah, I think Dobson is coming back, though.
All right, my thoughts on this series are that the Islanders are pretty mid.
Understatement.
But every time they make the playoffs, they go conveniently far. They don't win, but they always upset.
Always?
Carolina obviously has the better team on paper, but Islanders do have good depth, solid defense core, great goalie. So I think it'll be an interesting series. I don't think it'll go completely one way or another. I think it'll be nice and close.
I think Carolina's additions, minus Kuznetsov, are really going to help them. The decor, I mean, the Islanders have a good decor, don't get me wrong, but the Islanders or the Hurricanes have the best decor, in my opinion. From top to bottom, it's just sick. And goaltending wise, Sorokin's obviously the best goalie in the series, but Carolina's goaltending isn't bad, especially with how Freddie Anderson is playing right now.
But he could play like 2 games and then be injured.
And Kochetkov has played great behind the Hurricanes defense anyway. So I'm not, and like the Islanders defense isn't scary enough, or offense isn't scary enough for me to be overly concerned with either Carolina goalie playing, like for that to be like a factor in the series. Because Carolina could have guys go cold, and I still think that they'd be able to
Did
have
you
enough.
say I stink? You tried
That's
to say
right,
I still think you said I stink.
bro. Is a long day. Carolina has a lot of like from top to bottom offensively, it's just ridiculously good. Um, and then they also get offense from their defense as well. So the only real factor in this for me is goaltending, and the history factor of the Islanders being a tough team in the playoffs. Um, I just don't think that they're as tough of a team anymore in the playoffs, considering the guys that they have left. But who knows? Maybe we'll see some JG Pajot magic in the playoffs. Who knows?
Yeah, I would say I think it's going to be a close series because I do think Islanders do end up showing up in the playoffs generally when they come in. Now it's not the Barry Trotz Islanders, so you know that I think
Yeah.
that plays a factor because they're not Barry Trotz Islanders. But I mean, I think they've got a team that can like kind of like dig in there and just stay in the game. And I
Bro,
think
this is another team that's like, how the fuck did they get here, man? Like, come on. Look at their
oh, like
stats from the season.
their record doesn't
The
hold it in their
record,
favor.
they
But
had the worst penalty kill in the league.
yeah, but
Like,
they have Ilya Sorokin, so I
who
won't.
hasn't been good this year?
Yeah, but in the playoffs, sometimes they wake up.
That's fair.
So I'll say that. And if Noah Dobson comes back, well, there you go. So anyway, I think it's a close one. I think it's not going to be like a Carolina 5 gamer or something. I think it's going to be a close series.
For me, Carolina is the best team in the East. So there's no way I'm not going to favor them in this because I think that, I mean, the Anderson injury thing, I think he hasn't really gotten injured in the past 2 years. It's been the blood clot thing. And I'm on the presumption that that's solved unless he has another blood clot problem, which I feel like they would have known if that's a possibility. Otherwise, he wouldn't have came back. Because I very you rarely see someone come from 3 blood clots back to playing in the NHL. 2, you're still like, why are you here? But like, if there was a concern, a genuine concern for him health wise, I don't think he'd be playing. Um, so I think that goaltending with the way Anderson's been playing behind this defense, I don't think that's that much of a factor in the series. Um, Especially with how much goal scoring Carolina has from top
All
to
right,
bottom.
then what do you think the series is going to go to, and who's going to win?
I got the Hurricanes in 5.
I actually have Hurricanes in 7.
I have Islanders in 7.
Oh, you actually
I know
went out.
when all these
Carolina never does anything in the playoffs.
Carolina's
Well,
been to the conference finals 3 years in a row.
Don't remember.
No, you're objectively wrong in that statement.
The Islanders before that kept going to the Eastern Conference Finals. So
4 years ago when they had Barry Trotz.
yeah, Carolina's been 3 years in a row to the conference finals. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Islanders that he's talking about were
and they
4
haven't
years.
won.
It's
And you know
just
who has won? Alex Pietrangelo.
This is purely I'm gonna try to make Paul Gowan's happy pick.
you
My
know,
dad is an Islanders fan, but also,
yeah.
to be fair, there is always upsets that people don't see, and I think this could be one of those series. Not like I
think
could be
Evan,
The thing is, I think
literally anything can happen. The Hurricanes could sweep them. Absolutely, that is totally a plausible thing. But
the thing
this is
is
one of my
like
picks.
the thing is there's gonna be an upset somewhere. I picked the fucking Caps, uh,
Why?
which is more of an upset, and I think that odds wise, I think the next series we're going to talk about is an upset if one of the teams wins, and I think Homer's going to take them. So he's also going to pick an upset technically.
You think that the Caps have a better chance of beating the Rangers than the Islanders do against the Hurricanes?
No, I'm saying that they both.
Oh, I'm just asking. This is a purely curiosity question.
If I had to say, I think that they both have the exact same amount of chance of not beating them.
I disagree.
Because even if you look at the stats this year in the regular season, the Caps were better than the Islanders.
Wrong.
Right.
That's why they're in the third divisional spot.
The Islanders were better at losing in overtime. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Which
Which is why it'll go to 7 games because they mainly lose
they're
games in
not good
overtime.
at winning in overtime. They're especially not good at winning in overtime in 3-on-3 hockey.
Yeah, so maybe they're better at 5-on-5 overtime.
They're not good at 5-on-5. That's why they ended up with
No, but in
27
overtime, it's
regulation.
different.
All right, bud.
That everything being said, I don't mean any disrespect to either of these teams. I think this is
I do.
most, I think there's a reason Evan didn't even realize that Carolina's made it 3 times in a row to the conference finals because this is the most boring series in the entire playoffs.
Yeah, I think this is going to be we're going to look at this and the series is going to be over. The series is going to be over, and whether the Canes or the Islanders win it, we'll be like, okay, we're not going to revisit this until the next round.
I can tell you that if this goes to game 7, I'll probably tune in because it's a game 7. Apart from that, I don't plan on watching even a single one.
If this goes to game 7 and there's another game 7 happening, I'm not watching this game 7.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, of course. Yeah. If it's the only game 7 on that day, I'll tune in.
The only reason I would even look at the scores of this game is if there's the crazy thing that where the Caps somehow make it to game 7 against the Rangers, and the team we would be playing is either the Canes or Islanders. That's the only reason that I'd be looking at the series. It would be cool to see a Rangers Islanders series.
That would be cool. That would be
cool
huge,
because of the Rangers.
The NHL should rig this.
I personally think that the Kuznetsov versus Capital storyline is a lot better. But
Okay,
that's maybe the dumbest thing you've ever said.
No. The Kuznetsov, the Canes' fourth line center, I think is a pretty big deal.
I don't think Kuznetsov's going to play enough to have that storyline be a factor.
He actually will. The thing is, he still gets ice time because he plays on their first power play. He's just on the fourth line.
Okay. Next up, we have yours truly, the Toronto Maple Leafs versus the Boston Bruins.
Were we supposed to clap there or something? Great. Another first round Toronto matchup. Woo.
The Demons are back. So this kind of unlikely scenario that happened in the last week. No one thought, I don't think, that Boston would lose 2 in a row against Washington and then Ottawa. But, here it is. But
right.
The Boston Bruins, That's first line, Danton Heinen, Pavel Zacha, and David Pasternak. Line 2, Brad Marchand, Charlie Coyle, Jake DeBrusk. Line 3, James Van Riemsdyk, Morgan Geekie, Trent Frederick. And line 4, Jakob Locko, Jesper Boqvist, and Jason Megna.
I can't believe Jason Megna's still playing.
On defense, your first pairing, Matt Grzelcyk, Charlie McAvoy. Second pairing, Hampus Lindholm and Andrew Peeke. And your third pairing is Parker Witherspoon and Kevin Shattenkirk. And your goalies are Linus Ullmark and Jeremy Swayman.
On injuries, this doesn't count as an injury. Milan Lucic is in the middle of a court case. That doesn't count.
Yes.
Matthew Poitras, he is out for the season. Derek Forbert, defenseman. He's on a conditioning loan, so he actually could be added to their defense, and that would probably take out Weatherspoon. Brendan Carlo is day-to-day, and he would definitely take out whoever else is on defense there.
Peeke.
Yeah, so Brendan Carlo was just maintenance, so he's going to be playing. He's going to be in their top 4. So Peeke is gone, and likely Weatherspoon is gone as well. So that decor looks a lot better with Grzelcyk, McAvoy, Lindholm, Carlo, and Forbert, Shattenkirk. That's a very good decor.
Very good.
And then Justin Brazeau, who I've never heard of. So he's week to week. Respect to him. Evan's heard of him. Oh, wow. He had 4 goals and 1 assist in 6 games before his injury. Nice.
Okay, and the Toronto lineup, I'm going to go based off what I think it's going to be on game 1 because they've made a couple of switches for maintenance and whatnot right now. So based on what I think is going to be a game 1 lineup is what I'm giving right now. Okay, line 1, Tyler Bertuzzi, Austin Matthews, Max Domi. Line 2, John Tavares, William Nylander, and Matthew Nyes for now because McMahon's injured. Line 3, Nicholas Robertson, Pontus Holmberg, Noah Gregor. And line 4, Connor Dewar, David Kampf, Ryan Reeves. Also, Gregor or Robertson will be out, I think, come game 1 for for William Nylander to shift down to the third line and Mitch Marner to be on the second line with Tavares and Nyes. That's what I'm thinking. Your defensive pairings are currently Morgan Riley and Ilya Lyubushkin, Mark Giordano and Timothy Liljegren, and TJ Brody, and one of Connor Timmins or Simon Benoit. I guess you could have Edmondson up there, but I don't think so.
Would you rather have bad or worse?
And then in goal, we've got Ilya Samsonov, most likely starting game one with Joseph Woll. Joseph Woll backing up.
And Matt Murray.
Apparently, and Martin Jones.
Yes.
And Martin Jones. Man, yes. You could have like 3 goalie injuries. That's great.
Yeah. You know, there's a lot of Stanley Cup playoffs appearances with those guys. A lot of experience. Injuries. Calle Yarncroc is uncertain for game one, but he could definitely draw in early in the series. John Klingberg, I forgot, was on the Leafs. He's off. He's out for the season. And then Domi McMahon, you've already talked about, and Matt Murray.
Yeah.
I always forget about him, and he just always keeps coming back in the conversation at this time because there's always uncertainty with the Leafs goaltending. All right, Evan, you want to start with your favorite team here, the Toronto Maple Leafs?
Sure.
All right, let's go.
So, I think this will be a very fun series. It'll be fun to watch because of all the history between these teams, both the original 6 teams. I do actually like that both teams have big star, sexy names, sort of, on either side, as well as, like, I'm not going to say weaknesses, but I don't know. Like, I think Toronto's top end forwards are better because they have more of them. But I think Boston probably has better depth on forward. I think Boston has a better decor, better goalie duo, but that's probably helped by their decor.
I don't think the decor and goaltending is even close, if I'm being honest.
But I do think that, Boston isn't as good, even though they lost in the first round last year, as they have been in past years. They're going to be relying on people like Marchand Pasternak more than in past playoff runs as well. So, yes, defense wins championships, but let's just hope that Boston can keep it up because I prefer one team over the other, yes. But I do genuinely think this is going to be a very close series, and I don't know which way it's going to go, to be honest. Like, I do think maybe Toronto, they broke that little seal. They got into the second round. Maybe they just keep pushing. You never know.
I think this comes down to 2 very major things. Like, I think we can expect Boston's defense and goaltending to perform. And in history-wise, Marchand and Pasternak are going to perform, but the rest of the forward core just isn't that good. Where Toronto is like, we haven't seen the superstars be superstars in the playoffs, and I think that's really what it's going to come down to. We're going to need a 1.5 to 2 point per game performance out of at least 2 of the 4 forwards, or they're not winning the series. The goaltending isn't good enough. The defense isn't good enough. You're going to need your superstars to play at the McDavid, Draisaitl, McKinnon, Makar playoff level if they want to beat Boston, let alone win the cup. That's the only way that they can make it far in the playoffs is on the backs of those forwards. And Samsonov and Jones, Wall, I don't really care who's in net. They could be average, amazing, whatever, but it's going to take extremely amazing performances out of Matthews, Marner, and Nylander. I'm not even counting Tavares in this in order for them to make it past Boston.
All right. The Leafs fans' turn. I love this series because I think as a Leafs fan, you have to want this series because there's too much history here, and no route to any success in the playoffs would feel the same without going through Boston first. And they're the ones. There are demons that we haven't figured out yet. They have us every time. Yet every time we've played them, the series have been very close, and I would argue that a couple of times probably the teams have been not as close on paper before as well. So I think it's going to be a close series. I think Leafs players should want this series. I think Leafs players should be really pumped for this series if I was them. Boston has not only won, but they've like kind of embarrassed Toronto. I know like every game has gone to 7 games. Every series that they've had in the last 10 years has gone to 7 games, all 3 series. But each series has kind of ended with Boston just destroying game 7. And I think this is going to go probably all the way again. And it's going to need a lot of performances again, like from Austin Matthews, from Mitch Marner, from William Nylander. These guys are going to have to be insane. But yeah, I don't think Boston's forward core is that scary. They don't have a Patrice Bergeron this year. They don't have a David Krejci this year. Yeah, they've got Pasternak. Charlie Coyle's had a great season. Yeah, they have Marchand still. Yeah, they're going to put up points. They're going to lead the team. They're going to do their thing. And Allmark/Swayman are going to be insane in net. But I'm not that scared of the forward core. I'm more scared of the defense and the goalies.
Which is definitely less valuable in the playoffs, right?
Yes, precisely. No, because the defense and the goalies is where the Leafs are very outmatched in this series. I think we win in forwards.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I think we're very we're ahead in forwards. Like if we're here in forwards and Boston's here in forwards, like we win with forwards, but like Boston's here with defense and Leafs are like nowhere. And then Boston's here with goalies and Leafs are like nowhere. So that's where
Okay,
that's where I'm worried. So we'll see how it goes.
but that's where I'm saying that's why you need a crazy performance out of Matthews, Marner, and Nylander,
Yeah.
because this is purely just offense versus defense.
Yeah.
Boston's forward core is not good. Outside of
Yeah.
Pasternak, Marchand, it's going to take a lot of performances on their end from a lot of random players for them to make it far or past Toronto. But this is essentially, are you going to pick one Toronto's superstars to play exactly how they do in the regular season, or will they falter in the playoffs like they have for the past 7 years?
Yeah. The other thing is, I know these stats aren't really always worth of note when playoffs start, but the Bruins did sweep the season series. They went 4-0. So it's not looking good in that perspective, but you know what I mean. It's
Yeah,
those
I don't
those
care.
stats can,
The Caps shut out Boston twice,
yeah.
so I could care less about season series.
But yeah, Evan, what's your prediction?
Hmm. Do I do it?
It's your own death wish at the end of the day. We did it last year,
I know.
Evan did
but
it last year, no?
I
I
did it
did.
too.
No, you didn't.
Yeah?
Oh, you did.
Yeah, you hate the Leafs.
Yeah,
I'm
you
a
went
I'm a
Tampa.
I'm a big Leafs guy.
I think you went Tampa in 6 last year, is what you said.
Let's see what I did, bro.
I am going to go for Leafs in 7
Ooh.
because not that I genuinely think or want this is going to happen, but that's just the vibe I'm getting. Like it's got to happen eventually, right?
Yeah.
So
I picked the Leafs last
Oh, you
year.
did.
I
Yeah.
disagree.
Uh, with that being said, I'm going Bruins in 6. I I'd love for honestly, I'd actually love for the superstar Leafs forwards to prove me wrong, but they haven't done anything for me to do so. Like for me to think that. Because if they just go, if we get another 7 points in 7 games, Austin Matthews performance, they're not winning the series. They're just not, because the Bruins will score enough, and their defense is and goaltending is a million times better. The way they win this series, if we get like a 13 point, 15 point Nylander,
15. Settle down.
but we've seen that from McDavid, McKinnon, Makar. We've seen that from all those players, and that's what Matthews and Nylander are compared to. But that's why people are always like, "Well, look at the playoffs. This is the time for them to prove it. Can they have like a 2 point per game performance in the playoffs?" I say no, and that's why I'm picking Bruins in
I
6.
think they could get away with like an 8 or 9, but they're scoring on their own lines separately. So they're each providing offense each game instead of when they're together on the power play or something.
I mean, for Matthews too, it's more so goals, right? If he gets 7 goals in 7 games, I think that also plays. But he also hasn't done that. So for me, essentially, if Matthews and Nylander perform the way that they do in the regular season, I'll give it to Leafs. But we just haven't seen that, so therefore I am not quite to make that assumption, and I'm gonna say Bruins in 6.
Okay. I'm a history guy, so I don't think it's gonna go less than 7. Because Boston and Toronto always goes to 7. So Boston in 6 or Toronto in 6 doesn't make sense to me. I'm gonna go Toronto in 7.